Hello everyone, and welcome to Town to City. In our last episode, we spent some time working on entertainment and amusement, where we built this wonderful little amusement park for our people to enjoy. But now it's time to start looking towards our economic needs, because the people might be entertained, but they're missing out on some important resources. So let's go check that out. So in our last episode, we unlocked a lot of cool stuff, and we played around with the merry-go-round, the Ferris wheel, and the fun fair fences. But one thing we haven't really played with are some of the amenities, services, I guess they're called. We have the chapel, a school, newspaper stand, but we also have this pottery place, which is going to produce things that people need. And we also have like a launderer and a carpenter and a smithy. And if you look at our happiness score, one thing we're missing out on is houseware and public services. So that's something that we're going to have to fix. And that shouldn't be too difficult as long as we just put in a service district or maybe sprinkle some of these around our city. And then we can also come back and do some of these housewares like pottery. I don't even think we have a launderer yet. We can put another carpenter, another smithy, and I think we'll be good to go. We also spent a little bit of time experimenting with this cul-de-sac design for some housing, and I think I want to play around with it a little bit more, because if you look down here at my houses now, one of the things that I've unlocked is the ability to bring in houses from the different maps. So these are the houses that came with the Font Bracker, as we call it, Maryville, but then we have Bellevue, which we haven't renamed yet, and that's got this type of resident and then also this type of artisan resident. And so I think it would be kind of fun to maybe play around with some of those and see how it goes. We're going to do a mix of artisan and townsfolk. We got to be careful with the artisan because they require more luxuries. So we just got to make sure that we keep that in mind. So my first inclination is to start adding stuff over here in this section. And the reason for that is because I've already got a lot of houses built in over here. And so this would be a nice break in the neighborhood kind of residential housing to put in a service district with the school and the chapel and things, as well as put in some of those houseware items. We've already got food service over here, and we've got a hat shop. So I think if we do that, it'll make a nice balance for things. So it's going to require moving a few things around, like this road's probably going to have to change, and I might move this big road just a little bit, but let's play with it a little while and see what kind of service district we can put in and what kind of cul-de-sacs we can plan out. So I've been playing around a little bit with the different houses. I originally put in a bunch of artisan houses that were the same style. I didn't really like it. It was too repetitive. And so I swapped them out with some different style houses and different levels of citizens. And I think I kind of like how it's mixed up a little bit. So I'm going to keep it like that and decorate it and see what I can do. But like if you look over here, same color, same style of house, not cool. I'm not really a big fan. It looks like, I don't know. It reminds me of when my family used to visit Juarez, Mexico, and they had these big like blocks of government housing that they had built that looked just like this, and it was a bit brutalist, to be honest. So I want to try to mix things up. All right, that's not bad. I think I like keeping these lower for now. I don't need to put that many people in, but I did raise a couple of these up to 2 floors just because I think they match a little better with the height. They look a little squat by themselves, but we're off to a good start. Now let's think about how we want to put the services in to make all these guys happy. All right, so I got the bare bones of this neighborhood plopped in, and I think I'm ready to start doing some decorations. But before I do that, let me walk you through a little bit of what we got. We got 2 cul-de-sacs with housing, a mixture of artisan and regular homes. These are all 3 floor. These are 1 floor, except for a couple of them that are 2 floors. I decided because we had such a high density of residential here, and there's a bunch of residential here, and down the road there's another cul-de-sac, that I should go ahead and put a school here. So I removed the trees that I'd put in here to decorate earlier, and went ahead and plopped down a school, and then kind of tucked a chapel back in behind it, which I think is going to be nice and cozy. We're definitely going to be doing more schools in other places, but that's just the first place we've got one put in. Over here at the top, I was a little bit limited on the space that I was able to use, but I managed to fit in a laundry up here. So people are going to have to climb the hill to do their laundry, but hey, that's not my problem. And then I've got a pottery area over here, and all of these do connect to these artisan areas down here. I went ahead and tossed in a, what are these called? Yeah, carpenter and a smithy down here. We've got a place where people can get their haircut, and one of these cute little newspaper stands, which I think are just incredible, and I love them so much. And it also makes me remember how old I am, because there's probably a lot of people watching these videos who might not even know what a newspaper is. But those are things that we used to read when I was younger, many decades ago. Now everybody just walks around with their phone, but not in this game. No phones allowed. So let me start decorating, and I might put in a few more little bits and bobs here just to give them the amenities that they want, but let's see how this goes. All right, so I've got my school decorated. I wanted to go for a little bit more minimalistic than I've been doing on some of the buildings with all of the color and the flowers and the splashes, because I feel like a school would need to be a little bit more subtle, easier to maintain, wouldn't necessarily be so flashy and grand. So I went for like a little rock garden out front with the new rocks that I unlocked in the last episode, with some bushes around it that are easy to maintain, some trees, and a little bench to sit in, a few little flower bushes in the front, but nothing amazing. A stone wall in front of it, just to kind of do that thing that I was talking about where each building needs to have its own unique footprint. And so this one does look a little bit different. And I'm using paths around the side to go ahead and kind of section things off and make things feel like they're not just all lined up perfectly straight, but that things are unique and have their own design. In the back, I did put up a taller wall, even though that does have this courtyard wall, but I figured the people who live here would appreciate a little bit of a sound barrier having this playground right next to their house. I don't know. Over here, we've got the chapel, and I really kind of like this. These chapels are really cool buildings, and you can do a lot with them. But again, I wanted to go a little bit more simple. I didn't feel like it would be right to have it be super flashy or anything. So we've just got some basic flowers going up to the front with a little garden in the side. And I don't have tombstones yet. I don't know if I'm going to unlock those later, or if they're part of a decoration that comes at a higher tier, but I do have little rocks, and I think these are going to work for now. And so I put in a little tiny graveyard next to the chapel with little flowers in front that are just supposed to represent people putting wreaths on the garden. And then in the back, you've got the groundskeeper's tools. He's got his workbench. He's got some wood for the fire back here, wheelbarrow and things like that. And then there's just a little path that kind of wraps around the chapel to separate it off from the rest of the houses and just make it look nice and warm and inviting. So that is our 2 service buildings set up so far. So let's continue on and look at the other buildings to see what we can do. right, so we got the decorations done on these buildings up here. The pottery place, once again, I wanted to go a little bit more minimalistic, not quite so pukey, colory, flowery like I have been in the past. I'm just experimenting with different looks, and so I'm trying to go a little more with the green shrubbery natural look. And I like how the tall trees in the back kind of give a little bit of a backdrop and kind of break up the fact that there's a border back there and there's not much I can do. I'm really liking these rock assets. As much as I complained last episode about doing the mayor's quests, these rocks have been very useful, and I really like how they're a nice breakup in the terrain and a different color and texture to use as well. A couple other things I'm doing, I'm starting to put signs on the fronts of buildings because they would have signs up there, and then why not add a little doorbell because I've got this bell asset, and we'll give that a go too. Over here we've got the laundry. We went with a little more color this time because it had this big huge wall around it, and so I decided to put hanging color baskets of flowers all the way around the wall with a few little lamps and things. I decided to give it a little arch at the front with 2 lights on either side and a sign showing where it is, just to kind of break up that flat white wall look. And then I had this extra space over here, and I thought to myself, I haven't used any of the autumn colored trees yet, so why not pretend that this is some kind of orchard? And so we put in these trees in a nice row, put in this big farm building with the 2 side wings on it, decorated it out with some bushes and some fences and boxes and crates, and I really like how that turned out. I don't really know what it is or why it's there, but hey, it looks cool in my opinion, and I like, sometimes just putting in decorations to fill in green space. So now we're going to continue on doing a little bit more decorating, and let's see what we can come up with next. All right, we got our barber shop all decorated up, and I have plans for this little pathway up here that's going to lead to like some park picnic areas, and so I felt like putting in a couple of benches and an umbrella and a sign kind of gives the impression of what to expect up there. We went with a good old-fashioned little fountain with some flowers in the front, and then over here at the newspaper stand, I figured there could be like a little statue here commemorating something. This is probably the guy that founded the newspaper stand. I don't know. He's got a couple of benches next to him, using greenery again because I'm trying to experiment a little bit more of getting away from just using flowers all the time. And we put in some tables and chairs and some umbrellas for people to sit and have a coffee while they enjoy their newspaper. So all right, we're getting there. Next we got a blacksmith, and we have a lumber yard or a carpenter that we need to decorate. So let's get that done. Blacksmith all decorated up, and I decided to go very industrial with this. There's a big pile of stone out front that just gives a different texture and feel than the froofy flowers and plants we've been using in the past. It does make it look a little bit more used and probably a little bit more polluted. I guess not everything in a city like this would be absolutely beautiful, because the reality is they needed places that burned and made smog and stuff. I put a stone wall all the way around it, gave them some storage over here with barrels and crates and one of these wood storage areas, brought the wall all the way around the back just just separate it off, put some flags in the back and some little green shrubbery coming out of the windows. And then over here at the carpenter, we did go with a little bit more light just because. And we also had some colors that make it pop just a little bit, you know, just a little bit of variation. I didn't go overboard, but there's a few hanging baskets of flowers. But mostly I wanted to put the vines up the side, build this wall around it to separate it from the residential area around. And then I gave them like some tree cover just so the noise and things might be kept to a little bit more of a minimum. Okay, so I think we've got all of the services decorated. Now we're ready to do the houses. So let's decorate up these cul-de-sacs and see what we can come up with for some fun and interesting designs. So now that I've started randomizing the houses and randomizing my decorating patterns a little bit more to rely less on the flowers and more on structure, form, and shape, I think I'm liking this cul-de-sac idea more and more now because you can kind of create little unique themes and kind of separate your town off into individual little segments. Whereas, you know, the area that I built, because not everything that you build has to be a huge development where it's all tied together perfectly. You can have these little communities, and I really like the way this is coming together. This tall high-rise one that I built over here, I'm actually kind of proud of because I was able to use the flags to kind of pull together a theme to make it feel like it's its own little neighborhood or community and that these people all enjoy living together. I did some different decorating this time, not as many flowers as I've used in the past. I know I keep saying that, but you know, I'm trying to experiment with some new things. If you look down here, you can see that I'm using the little sign assets because in my mind, these are kind of like apartments where there's going to be families living in different places. And so you're going to have a sign to know who's where. We got the lamps and we've got benches out front because there's no sidewalk. And I wanted to do something to break up the front of the buildings. So benches, tables, chairs, all that sort of thing. And then over here, I just dropped in a fountain asset to fill in some of this space here with some trees and a lamp, benches, just to kind of complete the whole image and go and make sure that we have that unique footprint that I'm always talking about with different builds and different structures. So what do you guys think? We've got a lot of new service buildings that are put in. We got a lot of new housing that's been decorated in. And so let's go ahead and get some people thrown in here. And while I wait for my money to regenerate, because I just spent a whole lot of it, and I'm going to finish up that hill in the back with some decorations and park assets. And then we're going to see if this makes people happy or if there's any more that we need to do. All right, we got everybody moved in, we've got everybody employed, and I think this new neighborhood is working out really, really well. I managed to get all of the warehousing sorted out and get all of the people put where they needed to be and get everybody working where they needed to belong. And I absolutely love how this little neighborhood came together with all the service buildings and the warehouse goods and all of the cul-de-sacs. I really want to keep experimenting with this cul-de-sac thing. I think there's so much more potential yet to be unlocked, and I really like the design, especially this one over here with the tall mix of buildings. I just think it kind of has a neat look. It reminds me of possibly some cities that I've seen in real life. Also, let me introduce you back here to the lavender plants. We unlocked these in the last episodes with our farming, and I didn't use them, but I needed something to fill in this hill back here with. And when I was playing around with different things, I put these lavenders down and the colors just popped and I loved it. And so I went ahead and went a little bit nuts with the lavender and put them in. This reminds me of where I grew up, where they used to have the azalea festivals in Oklahoma, and they had all the bright, colorful azalea bushes going up and down the hills. I loved it. And so this is just a little piece of home for me. But I really like all the decorations that got put in. I like how I was able to experiment with rocks and greenery as opposed to just relying on flowers for everything like they've had in the past. And I even got crazy with this silly little orchard full of orange, I don't know, maple trees for maple syrup maybe. Who knows? You Canadians tell me if I got that right or wrong. Anyway, this is a little bit of a shorter episode than we've had in the past, but I'm actually going camping with the family this weekend, and I gotta get this thing pushed out. So I wasn't able to record quite as much as I normally do, but I hope you all enjoyed this little build that I did. And don't worry, we're coming back around Thanksgiving with the holidays. I'm going to have a lot more time, and we're going to be pumping out some serious content. So enjoy the neighborhood, enjoy the cul-de-sacs, enjoy the popping lavender flowers. But until next time, I'll catch y'all later.